Welcome to the podcast, The Unselfish Purpose of Life. Over 15 years ago, I started at a radio station with a monthly show on the purpose and value of unfolding the full potential of life. The discussion centered around the most basic value of life, consciousness, and the many angles and disciplines to understand its value in active, daily, responsible life. Many of those shows turned into podcasts the radio station arranged, and on the station's website, you can find them. But I decided to do a little editing and updating and just find a different placement for greater exposure. And that radio station, by the way, is not a public or commercial one, but a listener-supported station, so they can play and do play the most interesting music and have a few inspiring talk shows, which is why I had one. If you want to find it streaming online, it's WPKN.org. On occasion, before I get the editing down better, you may hear me mention it, but I'm no longer on the station. These are podcasts I've taken from the site, which they allowed me to, and just made it more available. So, my name is Kathy Connor, and I have been exploring the field of human potential for more than 50 years. I am a certified teacher of the Transcendental Meditation Program, and I teach this specific and very special technique in the public. And occasionally, I'm going to bring up research on the TM technique from time to time in these podcasts, so those interested can understand this procedure as an effective tool for unfolding one's full potential. And we'll talk more about things like this as we progress in the podcast. But I am looking forward to sharing my knowledge and experience with you. And on occasion, I'll have a guest, so that might be fun. So we'll have a good time. So here we are with the very first podcast I'm going to do. I selected it from my stash of podcasts on the station's site. I'm going to do a couple new ones too, but I thought I'd start with one I have done before. But then I thought, well, why am I throwing my podcasts into the vast sea of podcasts? Well, I think I have something to share with you, unselfishly. That's the name of my podcast, The Unselfish Purpose of Life. So my purpose is to share my knowledge and experience of study of the human potential, and especially how to effortlessly and systematically unfold it from deep within our very own self, our very own consciousness, so that we can unselfishly enjoy the full potential, the purpose of life, which is the expansion of happiness. And I hope you find the discussions useful for your own life. So we'll begin with one of my favorite shows. I did it a few times on this topic. It's called Life is a Highway, a metaphor and relatable discussion. So please enjoy. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to explain some principles of life, but related to the metaphor of driving, to understand just more in a practical way. And even these common phrases that we use, the road of life, life's journey, these are metaphors from that world of driving. And so I hope you enjoy the journey today, the trip. So I do a lot of driving. You probably do too. Maybe you're in the car right now. And I find in those quiet moments on the road that I notice similarities between what I'm observing behind the wheel and the evolutionary force of life. So that main evolutionary force of life, the main principle of life, is that it moves. You know, a lot of times people still ask me if they can silence their mind, if they're going to remove all their thoughts. And I said, no. There is a settled mind. Yeah, it's the basis for all the active mind. But you can't progress, move forward without that active thinking mind. So the main principle of life, that evolutionary force of life, is quite powerful. And it's always moving us forward. It's moving us towards a higher level of experience. And that's the point for getting on the road. You want to get somewhere. And where you want to go, you want it to be a nice place. Life is active. Life changes. It's the nature of life to change. Nothing stays constant in the outer relative world. We're always changing. changing our clothes, we're changing our opinions. Technology is changing fast. Change is the nature of life. To change is to evolve, to move forward. We're progressing towards something of a greater value at every intersection. So I'm going to probably milk this metaphor a little bit. So if you could bear with me, some of these references are going to be a little corny, and some of them will be insightful, I'm hoping. Through change, we evolve. Life is moving us forward, and evolution moves life forward through these steps of rest and activity that I mentioned. Evolution moves life forward through rest and activity. It's like the ocean. That's what I always think of, the waves crashing and moving back and forth. The mechanics of evolution are carried out under the influence of these two opposing forces because they're different. One is to destroy the first state, and the other to give rise to the next. And this continues to go on and on. This is the building, the moving forward, the progressive creation of anything. These opposite steps work in harmony to move and maintain life and spin the wheel of progress, evolution, always moving us forward. And as we move forward even, we're still resting and active. Everything has that in it. And if we're going back to our driving analogy, we're on the gas and then we're on the brake and then we're slowing down and we're speeding up. When the coast is clear, it's smooth sailing, so we're on autopilot. Other times we have to brake more, slow down, adjusting to traffic and other conditions, maybe some road work. At some point, we even have to pull over for more significant rest. And like life, sometimes things go smoothly and we're coasting through the day, and other times we have to stop or slow down and adjust to the conditions. Stop and slow and go. That's the flow of life. And that's the flow of traffic. The value of a procedure that allows the mind to move deeper within itself is to encourage integration of the values of the finer state of the mind into the active life. So there's the two aspects. Going inward is settling into that restful state. Coming out is active, living our life. So here's our two aspects. Rest and activity at the depth are silence and dynamism, and they coexist. It's not one dominating the other. One doesn't overwhelm the other because it's a balanced state. So the norm today is active life dominates so much that we're unaware of the deeper quiet and even silent levels of the mind. So when someone tells me they're going to try to silence their mind, I said, yeah, there's a verb in your sentence. That's probably not going to be so effective. You can actually experience it directly. It's a wakeful silence. It's not dull silence. It's wakeful silence. So the mind is capable of that experience, but to try to have it is really putting the cart before the horse. The mind can settle in, and it comes out of that, and it settles in, and it comes. And the purpose of that is to bring that quality of settled mind into the active mind so that you have both, not one or the other. We haven't really been exposed to this finer level of the mind so much. It exists. It just hasn't been available to us. The transcendental meditation technique, and that's, again, my expertise, it connects the subjectivity of the subject. That's us. That finer value within ourselves. That's our subjectivity. That inner value of the mind. We connect with that and then bring it out into the outer world so that both the inner and outer realities are lively. And that means that the TM technique promotes the process of evolution of life. The evolution or growth is brought about, again, by these two processes. And simultaneously, the present state has to move off so that the new state can emerge. So there's this in and out and in and out. It's not an overnight thing. And no one should expect that, well, they're going to learn a new technique, a new process to improve the quality of their life. And within a day or a week, maybe, everything should be fine. Well, like anything else, it's a process. But that process is, again, it's building on itself so that you can see these two qualities of rest and activity in daily life, like calm, even in the midst of something going on that may even be uncomfortable. So these two opposite processes, dissolution and creation, so we're using a different word here, they're held in balance in order for evolution to continue to move forward. Again, moving forward, always moving in the direction of fullness of life. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I'd really like to have a bad day." They might, but we would be worried at that point. But in fact, we wake up and we think, "This is the day I'm going to get all that stuff done on my list. This is the day. This is the day." The TM practice produces a specific kind of quality of consciousness called transcendental consciousness. And this is a fourth state of consciousness. The most refined level of transcendental consciousness is this state of wakeful silence, and it exists at the depth of the mind and is the silent source from where all activity emerges, or we could say where change starts to happen, where that process of moving forward begins. It's regular experience of transcendental consciousness. So it's a direct experience that develops one's latent creative potential, and at the same time, this is good news, dissolves the accumulating stress and fatigue, because that's what blocks the experience. Stress is dissolved because it's a restfully alert experience. It's quiet awareness. But it's deep rest. It's deeper than just sitting with eyes closed. It's different than sleep state. So it's a different, coherent level of rest. And in this case, when the nervous system has this experience, deeper, more chronic stress is able to dissolve. So the experience of transcendental consciousness has some profound effects on our life. It enlivens creativity and dynamism, orderliness and organizing power, and that results in increasing effectiveness and success in life. So basically, this is giving us a tool to allow our journey, to allow moving forward to be more smooth, less friction. It's not unusual, or it's not a unique concept that from this state of quiet or silence, non-changing silence, that change emerges. Every science has this concept. There's the unified field in quantum physics. There's the transition state in chemistry. In mathematics, there's the null set, the self-perpetuating source of all sets. And even in the physiology, there's something that's the basis for maintaining balance. And it's the homeostatic feedback system. It's constantly working. It's constantly maintaining the physiology in a balanced state. Now, yeah, that gets overloaded and overwhelmed, but we're looking to be more balanced. So this is the evolutionary force of life. We can say the driving force of life, ever stable at its basis, producing all the diversity in the universe. And that's a big thought, so we're just going to skip over it for now. Maybe another show, we'll come back to it. And it's this evolutionary force that is the natural desire for all of us to investigate and understand what else is out there. What else can we do to improve the quality of our life? This is what promotes us to learn and to engage in more things. And, I want to learn a new language, or I want to go to this college, or I want this career. We want to learn, we want to know, we want to understand. And this is that driving force, this evolutionary quality of life. So we're going to shift gears. See, I said there was going to be some corny references. Okay, but you can see there's a lot of them. So we're going to shift gears here, and I'm going to talk about driving again, and really physically driving in a car. Again, we drive to get somewhere. We're going toward a destination. Even a simple joyride like the one we're having now in our mind for no apparent reason. It's actually purposeful. The reason I thought to do this today, because it's a beautiful, beautiful June day here in the Northeast. It's not too hot. We're not on the West Coast or the Midwest where they're having a lot of heat. It's warm enough, but it's a beautiful June day. And I said, let's just enjoy. If you're not driving, then maybe you can close your eyes and just listen. But if you're driving, that's not a good idea. So what is the reason we would go on a joyride? Well, it's right there in the word. We want to experience some happiness, some joy. Maybe it's to clear our head or enjoy this scenery, but it's purposeful. It has a value. The nature of life is to move us towards a field of greater happiness. So this is our joyride. So when we're making a choice, we make the choice that gives us the greatest progress, success, ultimately happiness. We may think that the mind moves randomly And I hear this a lot. People say, well, my mind's all over the place. I can't seem to settle it down. Well, even the mind moving a lot, it's still seeking out something that will satisfy it. So that's really why it's moving. It's just moving quickly because it hasn't found that stable place, which is inward instead of outward. Now, here's a good example of the mind moving for a reason, but doesn't look like it. Channel surfing. If somebody's watching you channel surf, they're going, oh, not that show, not that show, not that show. Not. Yeah, you're just moving. Why are you moving past that show? Well, you don't like it. You don't want to watch it. It looks boring, or you're not interested. You're changing the channels so that you can find that one that'll allow the mind to settle in. And so it does eventually, maybe right away. Another example I often use at this time of year especially is going to the ice cream store, ice cream shop. You're going to get an ice cream cone. And lately, do you notice how many flavors there are there? It's not just the chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Those days are long gone. There's so many flavors. Let's say there's 100 flavors on the board and you're looking them all over and your friends are saying, oh, you're all over the place. You're really not all over the place. You're evaluating as you go up and down the columns and checking out the different flavors. You're going to find one that'll give you the most enjoyment in that moment. And for me, it's going to have some chocolate in it. Now, when we get on the highway of life to get somewhere, that somewhere is going to be better than where we came from. And that's the nature of life, to move in a direction of increasing happiness. That doesn't mean that disappointments don't come. It doesn't mean that stress doesn't happen. But we're not seeking it out. And when it does happen, we want to be able to handle it well, which we're going to also talk about in a minute. So driving on the road, on the highways, today we have apps, devices to help us get to our destination. So that's a process that's making things a little easier lately. We want to get where we're going with the least amount of frustration or delay. In other words, with the most success and ease. Now, that may not always be the case if there's an unexpected delay, but we have these devices so that we can avoid that. So I use Waze. And that's really come in handy a number of times for me. And I'm not the most techie person, but it's the one thing I use the most. And it's very helpful. And that very nice lady that talks to me, she's helped me quite a number of times make the drive easier and smoother and fewer obstacles. So, continuing on with our metaphor of driving, while driving, we are making choices all the time. What lane am I going to be in? Do I mind being behind this slow-moving vehicle? Do I mind the person on my bumper? Should I get out of the way? Some of our decisions are purposeful and planned, and sometimes they maybe don't seem to be, but we're making decisions. We move in the direction that will be the easiest, the fastest, and hopefully the safest, the most progressive. Now, sometimes we'll come upon a detour, and we have to change our plans and go with the flow. That's like life. Maybe things aren't always working out the way we might plan, or something unexpected comes up and we have to take a new direction. So if an unexpected challenge occurs, so we might have to change our plans and maybe, for a while, change directions. The fundamental point, though, is that even the detour is evolutionary. We may have to go around something, we may have to go out of our way, but we're still moving. And the idea is, even though we're moving back, we're also moving forward because we're getting around the obstacle. We're not letting the obstacle get the better of us. We're like, okay, so there's a detour. The other night I was driving on the highway and there was road construction and everybody gets in one lane. It takes forever. So I got off and I was getting on my way to another road and there was another detour there. Okay, one detour, another detour. Okay, you just deal with it. You handle it. You find your way around it. I managed to get home. When setting out on the journey, it's practical and useful to ensure that your vehicle is in good working order. So again, we're just continuing with our driving metaphor. We certainly want a comfortable ride. We want a vehicle that's reliable and sturdy, has the most up-to-date technology, gets good gas mileage, and the cars today are really, really comfortable, and some of them can park themselves, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. and looking good on the outside, that's a bonus. So all these things we might evaluate when we're car shopping. We want to make sure when we go on our journey that everything's up to snuff. The oil's been changed, the tires are checked, everything's working the way this car was built to work. And now we're ready to hit the road, especially if we're going on the long trip, but even on the short trips. So now, again, we're using just metaphors here, life, driving. In life, we also have a vehicle. And that's our nervous system. It's our machinery of experience. It's tangible. So we take care of it. We give it enough rest, hopefully, proper food, hopefully, exercise, hopefully. But is that it? Is that all we have to do? Well, proper food and rest and exercise, those are really important factors in our overall best health. But often in the schedule of things to do for the maintenance of our vehicle, which includes the mind-body, because that's what it is, a mind-body, we focus primarily on the body. Okay, not a bad thing to do, but it's not the only thing to do, because we're a mind-body. In our culture and society, the mind has been habituated to experience the outer world, and we've forgotten, in fact neglected, to unfold the deeper values of the mind, where the mind functions in a more orderly and harmonious way. The mind-body both constitute our vehicle. This is what we're taking for the ride. So we really want to take care of both things. We want to make sure all aspects of our life are in good working order for the best outcome, just like we do for our cars. If one thing's not working well, it's a drag on the ride. So we go and we look into that, and hopefully we can get that worked out. But if we have issues like anxiety or headaches, that gets in the way of our most productive day. And that also means, okay, these are signals. This is the way the body communicates, that we need some maintenance. Okay, time to head to the auto shop. Okay, and in this case, it might be a doctor. It might be that, maybe you just needed a massage. But it's good to maintain your vehicle at all levels. So in addition to whatever else we're doing, we want to take it to another level. And that includes the mind. So we're going to get to that in a moment, but let's look at the body first, because that tends to be where we put our attention. In life, we have regular habits towards our best health, and we fix things as they come up. But there are also seasonal things that we do to ensure the best maintenance, especially for our vehicles. The winter, for example, we're going to winterize our car, maybe make sure it has enough antifreeze, especially those of us who live here in the Northeast. Winter tires, if we do that and we don't have four-wheel drive or something. In the summer, we want to make sure our cooling mechanisms in the car are working well. There is an ancient science of health that comes from the same source, the same tradition as the Transcendental Meditation technique, is called Ayurveda, and it suggests routines, foods, etc. for the season for best health. And we'll discuss this very interesting science of health in an upcoming podcast. But the point here is, like the car is prepared for the season to work best, so we too can do the same for our physiology and prepare for the season so it can work best. Now, what about the mind? Because again, that's our expertise today. Consciousness resides in the field of the mind, and we all have consciousness. That's your awareness. If you're listening to me, you have consciousness. And you heard at the top of the show, if you were available at the top of the show. And if you weren't, this is WPKN, Kathy's Corner, 89.5 FM. I often mention the 3 states of consciousness we all know from birth: waking, dreaming, sleeping. My stepdaughter just had a baby last week, and I was texting her, and just some really cute pictures of him. And I said, he looks really chill because he's sleeping. She goes, yeah, newborns, they do that a lot. They sleep a lot. And as we get older, we'll be waking more. So now these 3 states of consciousness are called relative states, and they're not always the same every day. The nature of the relative is change. But we really want to think, is our consciousness clear or dull? Is it full or partial? So that can change too. We can change the quality of consciousness we experience in daily life by giving it a foundation in that quiet, by unfolding more refined values from within the mind. So that means we have to locate it. And in the TM technique, for example, the mind settles deep within itself. This is a deep experience. It's not just a rested state with eyes closed that we all do for a little R&R, but it's a deeper state of restful alertness. This is how it's characterized, where the mind remains alert, wakeful, while also deeply peaceful and resting. Remember I said earlier that coexists, these two steps of rest and activity. Now they're together, restful alertness. This is the fourth state of consciousness that I mentioned, transcendental consciousness. And just as the relative states of waking, dreaming, and sleeping are definable, and so is this fourth state. It has its own physiology. It's with regular access to this fourth state that the qualities of it become part of the physiology, such as harmony, coherent functioning. This is good for better decisions, sharper intellect, and even more refined intuition. That's all part of the way the mind works. There's more calm, there's more patience, more evenness. Going within improves the outer life. So back to our driving metaphor. We're going back and forth, just like changing lanes. We just don't make sure that the outer of the car is okay. Okay, the car's washed, the seats are in the right position, and I've picked up all the trash inside, so let's go. No, you look under the hood. Make sure it's in good condition. Otherwise, the trip may not be so smooth. The outer value of the car is actually based on the inner value. If the mechanics under the hood aren't working, it doesn't matter how nice the car looks. You can't really take it anywhere. In addition to familiarity with the qualities of this fourth state, or transcendental consciousness, when the mind-body experiences this restfully alert state, the deeper, different rest is the basis for the physiology to begin to remove the stress and the strain that is accumulated. This is a key thing. Stress is like rust on our nice car. It's a deterioration. And it's a growing concern in our society with its fast pace and all these pressures, because that's what stress is. It's overload, undue pressure. If it accumulates, it can create some problems and even disease. Lately, I meet more and more people who tell me they have some form of anxiety. That could be related to the brain, which is the fear center of the brain, the amygdala, or maybe it's related to the metabolism. I'm feeling nervous about this particular thing. It could be in a moment, a state, or it could be trait, which means it's longer term. In any case, it seems to be at epidemic levels. And if we want a smooth ride in life, we definitely don't want that, because that really weighs us down. When I see a classic car, which sometimes you'll see them at certain events, I really appreciate it, because I know that that person who owns that car has gone to a lot of trouble to make sure that car has stayed in good shape on the outside. And if they're still driving it, then they're also maintaining it on the inside. And this is important, because I'm starting to get a little older now. So I want to make sure that the inside and the outside, they're both doing okay. So we want to have routine maintenance. A method to remove stress regularly is valuable. You just don't want to wait till it all piles on and then handle it. We want to get rid of it regularly. Now, sleep gets rid of fatigue. That's its job. But the deeper chronic stress, that has to be addressed from a deeper vantage point. So now that our car's in good shape, now we take it on the road. Now, once we're on the road, there are guidelines to follow. We all just don't make up our own rules on the road. Although, I have to tell you, I've been to some countries where that's what it looks like they're doing. But when you're there long enough, you realize, no, there's a rhythm here. But we all follow the rules of the road. You stop on the red, you go on the green, you put your signal on. Not everybody does that. So we learn the rules at driver's education, and then we learn more rules as laws are passed. There's a law in Connecticut that you can't be on your phone, no texting and driving. There's also a law that you have to have your headlights on when it's raining. Some people don't know that, but most people do. You see that. So these are the sorts of tangible rules that we hopefully everyone's trying to abide by. But there are also rules of courtesy, or these unwritten rules, and that would be, if somebody lets you in, you give them a little wave, or you let them in. If they're trying to get in, it's your turn to let them in, because the person ahead of you just let 4 cars in. You can let somebody in. Okay, so in the same way, there are rules in life, and they come from our cultures and our religions. So it's a kind of driver's education. We know your cultural and religious doctrines and follow them. Walk that talk. for best life. Do unto others. That's a common rule across cultural, religious boundaries. But we want to live that naturally, where there's no strain. And the qualities of the refined levels of consciousness are evenness, deep peace and happiness, energy and intelligence. Naturally, the appreciation for the environment grows and develops, which includes compassion and courtesy to others. It's when these qualities are part of our physiology that they're naturally reflected in our day-to-day life. So how are we all doing out there with our driving metaphor? Are we enjoying the ride? So we don't have much more time, but continuing with our metaphor, going on a trip, this one I particularly like, especially if you're unfamiliar with where you're going. You want to use a map. But does anybody use maps still? I have one, or I'll sometimes refer to one online, but mostly we're using our GPS, and as I mentioned, I use Waze. No one wants to get lost. When looking for a program of self-development, make sure there's evidence that the instructor lives what they're promising and that there's tangible research or evidence-based results. Anybody can say anything, so you need to do your research. There's an old saying, he who knows the country tells the direction to him who asks the way. So you want to find someone who knows the country, someone who has been to that destination, who knows it well, can describe it, can reflect it in their own life. It's the right of everyone to unfold their full potential, and you don't want to waste your time on ineffective things. Know where you want to go. Get a reliable source to find the way, someone to show you the way. Conditions matter too when we're driving. If the road's bumpy, if there are construction zones, the traffic is light or heavy, all this determines how we drive and how we have to adjust in order to make the most progress. If traffic's heavy, we slow down. Sometimes we even have to stop for a while, but it's all temporary. Just like the point I made earlier about the detours. These are temporary things. At some point, things move again. In life, there are times when things move along with ease, and other times we might feel stuck or slowed down when trying to achieve our desires. This is when we might come upon a detour from time to time. It may be inconvenient, but it might also be necessary. But the main point is, we do have to adapt. We have to make a little change. With detours, we remind ourselves, okay, we're still moving forward, we're still progressing. And it may look like we have to go back to go forward, but in fact, we're still moving. In life, there are obstacles to the fulfillment of our desires, and this is what really causes our unhappiness. I mean, if all our desires are always fulfilled, so then what's the problem? There really isn't one if your desires are fulfilled. It's the inability to fulfill desires that creates that unhappiness, frustration in life. We look to the outside to fulfill our desires, but the outer world is always changing. Even the greatest happiness that we can find, and that's going to be different for different people. Maybe that's the biggest roller coaster in the world, and you're on it. And oh my gosh, this is the most fulfillment you've ever experienced. But at some point, that ride is over. Well, you can get on again. Okay, even the greatest happiness we find in the outer world is bound by space and time and can't last forever. So where is this seat of permanent fulfillment? The basis of all change, and not the change itself, the basis of all change is the field of maximum fulfillment. And that means it's that state where there's the most peace. There's the most fulfillment, the most happiness. We've all heard this. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? Go in and then come out. And fulfillment of desires in the ever-changing will be easier to accomplish on that platform. And that's actually what self-realization is. We realize that fullness is already there. It's a matter of contacting it, unfolding it, experiencing it. It's like realizing that your glasses have been on the top of your head the whole time you've been looking for them. It's in there. It's just we haven't been trained to locate it. The unexpected can happen on the road. Life decisions are made all the time. Sometimes we have to make them quickly to accommodate what's in front of us. I had something happen to me the other day. I'm just coming down a fairly busy road, and
just this is how everybody describes these things. Out of the blue, literally, a car pulled out in front of me at top speed. And I was a young person. I'm thinking, oh man, don't be impatient. This is very hazardous. I mean, I was, millimeters from connecting with this person. But I had to make a quick decision. Okay, well, obviously, it was an impulse. I'm going to slow down. And fortunately, that was the right one. But we're always on the road. We have to make quick decisions. The best formula, and in life sometimes, the best formula to handle these situations is a flexible and clear mind. The brain, of course, is this decision-making instrument. The more flexible it is, the more clear and coherent it is, particularly the prefrontal cortex, where evaluations are made, the better the outcome. And stress has a debilitating effect on the prefrontal cortex. So when unfolding our potential from within, in consciousness, the brain physiology changes to reflect a more orderly and coherent functioning. You're not making that change intentionally on the conscious level. It's a result of the mind being more settled. Now, what shows up, remember I said that each state of consciousness has its own physiology. And in this case, we're talking about transcendental consciousness when we start to transcend. And what happens in the brain, very dramatic change takes place in the brain. But the brain changes with every experience, but it's what it's doing that matters. Now, what emerges when the mind is more settled are alpha waves. You don't see that all the time. Alpha wave indicates more alertness and clarity. In fact, the Mayo Clinic describes alpha waves in the brain as being associated with relaxed, happy, and focused states of the mind. There's an increase in blood flow that takes place in the brain during this experience of transcendental consciousness, and that's because the brain is being nourished. And today we discuss brain integration. Some time ago we were talking about, not we, because I never liked it, but people would say, well, I'm using 10% of my potential. Well, I don't know that. That was a phrase more from the self-help industry, but neuroscience really talks in terms of brain integration. And when the brain is settled in this fourth state of consciousness, it's in a more harmonious state. Alpha waves show up for everybody when they practice this technique of TM, no matter how long they've been doing it. Again, because it's a response of the physiology. But the real interesting and important point is that over time, those alpha waves, remember, they indicate alertness and clarity, they're still there. So this is that integration that I said in the very beginning of the show. The purpose of going in is to bring those qualities out. There would be no value in just telling someone, oh, while I was meditating, I had some really cool alpha waves. Well, are they purposeful now? Where are they? Well, they start to show up. Anything you do repeatedly, the brain now can hang on to these alpha waves, and that goes into your day. The coherence and the clarity exhibited in this meditative state of transcendental consciousness now shows up in daily life. And this is really the main reason that we meditate, not for the short experience of the meditation itself, but for the long hours of the day afterwards. Now, flexibility is what results, because when you go in and come out and go in and come out, the mind now has these two values. It has that rested state, it has that active state simultaneously. And this results in a state of flexibility. And that's a great quality for the mind. And it's enhanced just from this practice of transcending. When going inward, the mind expands and experiences inner freedom. Then when coming out into the day-to-day life, there's a value of that. We can even say it's unbounded. It becomes part of the mind's habit and allows for more expanded and flexible thinking. The ability to adjust quickly to new and unique situations, well, that's a valuable tool for all that life throws our way. It's good to be flexible. If we don't give the mind this experience, this inward experience, it can actually become rather rigid. And it's in that rigid thinking that we can tend to find some frustration. We want to be clear, we want to be alert and flexible, using the best of our mind, brain, all these good things, part of our machinery of experience, when we're driving, literally, and when we're just living our life. We want to be in our best condition. It's easier to accomplish our goals while handling the unexpected with equanimity.
So thank you for finding me and hanging in there and listening to me going on and talking. And I hope you enjoyed the ride. And one more point I'll just make as we're closing up. Don't drive distracted. Use your good, orderly brain so you can make the best decisions, not just on the road, but all the time. And another fun suggestion, when you have a moment, put on the song Life is a Highway by Tom Cochrane, if that's your generation. He was the original singer and writer. Or it was covered by Rascal Flatts, if that's your generation. But it's a great song. Dance around and enjoy.